an art, piece by piece, replace every colors that it had and revitalize it somewhere else, is it still the same art? The answer from opposition here is to simply say that it isn't. It may be safer, but what exactly did it preserve in golf? To which, until now, gained no meaningful material from them. First glaring call out, their claim about preserving meaning is only as strong as assumption that meaning survives duplication. Because most of the audiences who will encounter these works are already non-proximate to the original context that they draw from. This means that you viewing a relocated mural in a museum and viewing a photograph op-ed in a textbook serves no difference in their side of the house because this just places the audience at the same critical distance. Both are mediated, curated, and detached from the lived experience that the work produces. So, in that specific case, the government is just not uniquely preserving contextual meaning at all. Even if they do tell us that they're preserving it, they're simply preserving the aesthetic of the object while everyone else consumes a representation, one that they are not aligned with. Problem, because impacts are so minuscule in their side of the house, even if we bite them in the best case. Because I can already view the meaning of artworks in South Philippines, for instance, when I view them in my textbook. But as someone from the North Philippines and seeing these artworks in our more metropolitan area, it doesn't serve any purpose at all. And the extent of this benefit goes in two folds. First, I can appreciate the beauty of it, but since I'm not really from that area, I won't be able to resonate within the meaning that it holds. Note, the art that we are debating to begin with are cultural and historical arts because these are the arts with context. That is the comparative of the debate. This does not look like Picasso's art, but though I can say that this art kind of have a meaning, but it's just outside of the comparative of the debate. What I can only experience as a third world observer is that it might be good, but it might hold meaning, one that I do not know of. And even if I do know of, those resonation of meaning does not do anything for me other than acknowledgement. It's harder for you to launch the benefit of likelihood that a lot of people from these areas will clamor against this. Less likely, no meg from them. Why? Because it's not my culture to begin with. I won't understand the art of Luna, which tackles the Spanish abuses in the Philippines, if my own history isn't plated by its own context. It's less on me in my proximity to incline with it. So even at best, it's just leading to one point. Most of the time, the only extent is appreciation of aesthetic. Problem, the glaring intention of harm, which still gained no response from them until now, still happens in their world. You still took away the meaning why this specific art has been prospered to begin with, i.e., the fact that it has historical tie to the people's cultural identity. Even if it becomes mushy, even if it becomes dusty, and for the worst case, coming from side whip or gov whip, even if it goes into an appearance that it's so bad, this kind of art still holds meaning for these people because these people within this geographical location will still appreciate the art's existence due to the meaning that it contains, no matter how bad it looks. Like, for example, even if it looks so bad right now, these people will still appreciate it because it represents the hardship that they had, it represents the culture that they had. You cannot appreciate that as someone looking at as a third person. Second question then, will this artwork really die as an art piece? If they do, what do these deaths symbolize in both sides? No, it's not just about the looks, it's about the extent of the impact that it carried. Like how the paintings about Christianic abuses in North Philippines, no matter how beautiful it is, will symbolically die if you place them in a Muslim-dominated space in Mindanao, which is placed in Southern Philippines. So I'll deal with their claim as well of subjectivity and their crazy claim of disenfranchisement and clamor, which they haven't sufficiently substantiated in likelihood. First, subjectivity in art is permissible if that art in itself do not carry a huge macro context, like how we can reinterpret the art of Michelangelo, no matter how much we skew it, because we don't take away the voices of the marginalized when we take this kind of initiative. Problem again, that's not the comparative landscape within the debate. From that alone, their case is dead because they claim that this context will retain even if you move them. Untrue. Just imagine all of the arts by Native Americans from North America being taken away from them and placed in United States by their very own colonizers. The incentive from them to ethnically cleanse their own abuses and clear their own narrative from them from this subjective interpretation is much more likely to happen because they have the incentive to do so. Like how they will say that how uncivilized Native Americans are because before they just have this artifacts about paganism. That's why they will glorify and valorize the Christian expansion that they did. The very, very problem in golf here, just looking at the fact that they're too scared to take a PY, just proves how disengaged they are from the spirit of the motion. All of their met from clamor and representation is it's just representation from the minority, it's just simply less and less likely to accrue because the hegemonic control of people running these developed cities within this domestic land are usually the ones who want ethnic wars within their nation. That's why the incentive structure that we have mentioned simply stands. Like they have the incentive to reinterpret this towards their own narrative. Problem number two, they said that the clamor will happen. Yeah, sure. Maybe the clamor that you are experiencing right now from the minority group from the Philippines against UK Museum refusing to give out artifacts from the Philippines is the clamor that will happen your end. But before I move, I'll take a POI. 3, 2, 1. It's still unengaging. So this is why it's important to keep it within these areas. They need to remember and commemoralize it because they're the only people who can proximately go in with it. It is important to keep these words in their original ideas or original areas because the meaning is sustained through repeated everyday interaction by those people who are socially and historically tied with it to them. It's not about subjective interpretation because you take away the meaning why that specific art is representative, why that specific art was created in the first place, and you kill the authors instead, and you kill the painters instead intent in the first place, which are crucible in this specific scenario. Again, that is the comparative of the debate. The culture is not preserved by occasional distant viewing that you can see in textbook, for example, because they claim that you can still do that. It is reproduced or gathered around the monumentum during commemorization. They reinforce shared narrative and transmit how many memories across generations kind of have it. Memories and remembrance of their abuses, of how they should continue to fight for their reparation because woke people on their side of the house can do less. Sure, they can say that these people from this specific land can call out and realize how bad their ancestor was. Problem, all of that acts of rally that you can see right now in the museum, like throwing potatoes to them, do not do anything at all in impact. You can just be mocked by people. You can just be mocked by people within the authority that keeps that museum. That's like what you can see right now. That's why the clamor within this and the rally within this is less and less impactful, even if it happens inside government. So at the end of his speech, this proves all of the incentive structure to keep this within these areas, and they still haven't responded to one of the most important cases here in Gulf. It's the fact that if you are incentivized as a nation to keep this within historical tie, you are also incentivized to keep these areas to begin with, to protect them, even if they are flooded by flood, for example, because it still carries it still carries a lot of history for your country, and you also tie that with how you protect art, because that's how you incentivize the state to do it in itself. Very proud to oppose.